Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the playing of our national anthem.
Baseball fans, you're listening to Babes.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going.
Happy New Year. I know it's January 11th, but this is the first time that we're recording in 2024.
I know. Happy New Year. It's honestly so good to be back. Like as nice as it is to take a break at the end of the year like that. I'm not gonna lie, like I didn't really take my foot off the gas when it comes to the baseball stuff. So, and I know you didn't. I know we were both monitoring the hot stove. So
absolutely. Same here. How are you feeling about 2024 so far? Are you kind of like, ew, January holidays are over, like let's just get through this month? Or are you like, new year, fresh start, let's go?
Yeah, I am definitely like fresh start, let's go. And as you know, we are within a month of our 1 year Babes birthday. And so I am really excited about that. Really excited about all the things that both of us have going on, both here with Babes and individually. So yeah, I'm really excited for us to dive into all of that.
Me too. I kind of went into the new year thinking that I just wanted to take the pressure off of, kind of fight that resolution mindset. You don't always have to be setting goals, especially if you don't feel like that's something that you need to do. And we all have this kind of pressure of like new year, we have to reflect and set big goals and like ultimately, let ourselves down if we don't really plan and to execute on them. So I just kind of took the pressure off, and that actually did exactly what I needed it to do, because so far, yeah, I'm like 11 days in, crushing it. We got this. Let's go.
Right? No, you bring up a good point. And honestly, I've never really been a huge resolutions type of gal.
Yeah.
But last year I was really like, okay, I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to work on my self-confidence and like trying new things and not being afraid to try new things.
Yeah.
And I did that. We did that. And
here we are.
Look where we are. Yeah. And so I think because of that and being able to like launch off of that launching pad this year, it's easier for me to get into that whole like resolutions mindset. And like I created a whole ass vision board and we're ready to go.
Love it. Awesome. Yes. Well, we do have some live viewers. So guys, as you jump in, great to see you. Would be even better to hear from you. The live chat is open. So feel free to drop comments, join in on the conversation, because we are going to talk about literally all 30 teams in Major League Baseball today. We are going to go through the divisions by division and talk about our maybe favorite moves, whether it be a signing or a trade, or maybe make some suggestions for the teams that haven't done anything that we really like yet. But first off, since we're talking about New Year's resolutions, we'll do our around the horn question here. And again, if you're listening, feel free to chime in the chat, and we'd love to call out some of your answers to this question as well. The question we are answering today is, what is your New Year's resolution as a baseball fan? So don't have to make any big, like, I'm going to work out 5 days a week, or I'm going to eat a lot more vegetables, or I'm going to read more books, or whatever. We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about how you're going to be a better baseball fan in 2024. Jonna, do you have a resolution as a baseball fan this year?
Yes, I love this question because, as we started Babes, and just like in the last year, I've been really trying to be intentional about familiarizing myself more with the National League, since I'm obviously an American League fan and I'm just way more familiar with what's going on over there. But yeah, I'm really trying to learn and grow and be more comfortable and familiar with your league. And I think I'm off to a good start with that because I took on a new role writing with Fansided. And so I have been, I hope Anthony Volpe will eat more chicken parm this year as well, because it proved to be very helpful for him last year. But yeah, no, sorry to dive over there. But yeah, I think so with the Fansided gig, I am certainly like integrating more with the National League, and I'm really excited to learn and grow.
Totally. I think that's a really good one for most baseball fans because I don't know, I've been like really into following all of baseball for a number of years now, but it is interesting that there's maybe not as many fans that are like whole baseball fans. People get really into their teams, which is awesome. And if that's the way you want to be a fan, more power to you, because one of the best things about being a fan is you can be a fan however you want. So certainly not here to tell you how to be a fan, but I do think that makes it even more enjoyable to be a baseball fan when you just are more well-rounded, you know what's going on with all the teams. And the thing that I think I found the most in the past couple of years from expanding my reach on that is that I have better perspective on my team because I'm more in tune with what's going on around the league and the other league as well. So my resolution is kind of opposite of yours because since I've gotten so into following all of baseball, it's sometimes easier for me to be more excited. Maybe more excited is not the right way to say it, but as we get to talking to some of the teams today, you will certainly sense my enthusiasm for other teams, their signings, their trades, what they're doing, as opposed to what my team, the St. Louis Cardinals, has done this offseason. And that doesn't mean that there are not still so many guys that I am super pumped and feel really lucky to watch on that team. And, you know, that I'm not excited about certain moves that they've made because I definitely am. So my goal in 2024 is to not let the 2023 season from the St. Louis Cardinals affect my mindset and my ability to enjoy them as a fan going into 2024. Not going to let it get ahead of me. And we're going to take it one game at a time because 162 is a long season.
It is. And so much can change from one year to the next. Like, you just never know who's going to be the next guy to have like a breakout season. So there's a lot to look forward to. Like, it's a clean slate, and I think that's a good goal for going into this next season.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I think as baseball fans, we all love so much is that on opening day, all 30 teams have got a shot at it. So we're going to talk about all 30 of them now and just kind of go through the leagues. Ready to jump into our Ruth's Rundown segment?
Yes, absolutely. So I want to say hi, Drew, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Drew, I'm here for you, White Sox fans. I live in Chicago. If you haven't listened before, I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan in Chicago. No, I'm from Central Illinois, but I am currently in Chicago. And it's obviously I'd be a fan of the White Sox over the other team we won't even talk about until we have to. But the White Sox, I know you're suffering. I know it's rough. But here's what I will say is that the White Sox have made some very good moves. Like, they're high on vibes right now. Brett Phillips. I'm going to talk about Paul DeYoung a little bit later. Who's the other one? They signed the Jake Woodford, who I know is not a super exciting pitcher for anyone, but I do think the Cardinals organization maybe did not utilize him super well. He was mismanaged, especially the last couple seasons. So, and he's a really, really good guy, hard worker, great teammate. So the White Sox are doing some things, maybe not the same kind of things that the fans want to see, but considering all of the ways that they were in the headlines last season, I still think it's productive things. And the number one thing that I hope happens for the White Sox is I want them to sign Joey Votto. That is what I've decided. It's my campaign for the White Sox. I announced this on another podcast, but if Joey Votto signs with the White Sox, I will buy a Southside Votto jersey.
I love that.
Shout out to you, Drew. Thanks for joining in.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. I have I'm going to get a little deep on what a move I think is good for the White Sox later. So when we get there. But yeah, let's kick off with the National League and let's just kick it from the top.
Let's just get this one out of the way because we don't really even want to talk about this one because everyone else is talking about it.
We, for some reason, our minds always work that like sometimes when I read articles that are breaking down all the divisions, they start from the East. And I don't know, like our brains think differently, I guess, because we always start from the West.
Yeah.
So
that's the direction you read. You read from California to New York.
Exactly. If you're looking at the map, like that's on the left, right? So
I guess they probably start with the East teams because they're like the oldest teams and there's more teams. Obviously, there's less once you go West. Whatever. We're doing it right. I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
And most importantly, we're getting the Dodgers out of the way because we're not like the most hyped to talk about that since everyone else has talked about it and it's just been beaten to death. We get it.
So, Kelsey, tell us about the Los Angeles DEFERRALs.
Yeah, they have been renamed formally the Los Angeles DEFERRALs. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're picking like our favorite trade or move, but we might also talk about like things we think they could do or things they didn't do that maybe worked out for them because all the teams are in a little bit of a different spot. So if I had to pick one, like obviously we know they signed Ohtani, we know they signed Yamamoto, and I was super excited. I was following the Yamamoto thing all along. I was really like amped on him signing really anywhere other than with the Dodgers, to be honest. So I can't even say Yamamoto, especially because of the nature of the signing and all the weird little things within the deal. I went from like being like level 11 on a scale of 1 to 10, excited about watching him pitch to like a 2. Still kind of intrigued, but not at all for the same reasons that I was before. So my pick for the Dodgers is the Tyler Glasnow trade. It is the one I would not have been annoyed about out of context with everything else that they've done. The Dodgers have a history of rehabilitating pitchers, and Tyler Glasnow obviously is a great talent, but he has struggled to stay healthy and really produce innings for the Rays the last few seasons. So the Dodgers get outfielder Manuel Margot, and the Rays got right-handed pitcher Ryan Pepio and outfielder Johnny DeLuca in that trade. So, you know, I didn't hate it. I liked that Tyler Glasnow got an extension, and that was part of the trade. So he got some money secured and a team that's invested in, you know, getting him healthy and seeing him find some success there. So, Jonna, I know you asked if you could pick none for the Dodgers, which I am right there with you. But if you had to pick one, what would you pick for the Dodgers this offseason?
So I'm going to say Trey Sweeney, and not for the Dodgers. Doesn't make me happy for them. Doesn't make me happy for the Yankees, but it makes me happy for Trey Sweeney because he likely would not have seen playing time with the Yankees. We are stacked with infielders, and he probably wasn't going to make a debut this year. And so I think there's a chance he will with them, and that makes me happy for him. So I'm going to say Trey Sweeney.
I like that. This is going to be a good exercise in calling out maybe lesser known players as well with some of these teams. So let's move on to the Giants, which they've been trying to be as active as the Dodgers with no such luck. They're like, you know, like always a bridesmaid, never a bride. They're like, they can't even be a bridesmaid. But
at least the Mets kind of took that title this year from them.
That's true. My pick for the Giants this offseason is the Robbie Ray trade. That was really exciting for them. Maybe not as exciting for Mariners fans, but Robbie Ray won the Cy Young with the Toronto Blue Jays in 2021. He signed a 5-year, $115 million deal with the Mariners, and he pitched less than 200 innings with Seattle before he had Tommy John surgery. So he is expected to return about the middle of the 2024 season with the Giants. So some good news there. Jonna, what are you looking at for the Giants?
I'm going to say Jung-Hoo Lee, who I think will be an excellent upgrade to their outfield defensively. And I think he'll give their lineup a quality contact hitter. I also think Bob Melvin is a great signing for them. he's from the Bay Area, so he's very familiar with the teams there. He grew up rooting for those teams. I think he'll bring a lot of fire where, the Padres fell short last year. And I think that was just like a huge disappointment for him. So I think like starting over fresh, we know what he's capable of. He made the playoffs several times. He's been a 3-time manager of the year. And, he led the Padres to the NLCS in 2022. So I am looking forward to seeing what he does there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I was glad to see him get a, I guess, relatively amicable split from the Padres and get an opportunity elsewhere where hopefully they're going to be just a little bit more aligned, because we all know that divorced couple tension between AJ Preller and Bob Melvin in the Padres clubhouse was not going to get that team anywhere. So very good call out there. Speaking of the Padres, let's move on to the Padres. Jonna, you have a bit of a vested interest in some of the Padres offseason moves. So what do you like about what they're doing this offseason?
I mean, I love that they dealt Soto, but I'll save that. I'll save that for later. They did gain a lot in that deal, I feel like. So let's talk about Kyle Higashioka. He is a veteran behind the plate, and I think that'll be really good for them, for him to work with their young catcher. I think that's something they shouldn't sleep on. He's one of the best framers in baseball. I mean, he was Garrett Cole's personal catcher for a period of time. His slash line is underwhelming, as we know, but I think there is a lot to the job of the catcher, and sometimes that value is overshadowed by the play at the plate. So, Higgy framed Corey Kluber's his no-no, in 2021. And then he framed Domingo Germán's perfect game last year. So he's been with the Yankees since he was drafted in 2008. That's a very sad thing for us. But I think like the veteran value there and just his knowledge of the game, I think will help their younger staff out a lot.
Yeah, I saw an interview with him like days after this trade went down, and he just seems really grounded and like a really cool dude. So yeah, sounds about right. The thing that I am taking most note of for the Padres is their choice to not re-sign Hader, which is obviously part of them having to adjust their payroll for a myriad of reasons. But I think in doing so, they have the opportunity to build a more dynamic bullpen. They signed Yuki Matsui from the Japanese League for 5 years, $28 million. And then Woo-Suk Go from the Korean League for 2 years, $4.5 million. They also acquired Michael King from the Yankees in that Juan Soto trade. So last year, going into the 2023 season, I was like, Mets were the most annoying. Padres were right behind them, just in the sense that like they were throwing out money without a lot of sense or logic or strategy to it. And it always annoys me when owners think they can take the strategy out of the game and just write the paychecks instead. It's not fun or interesting for the fans, I guess, as a whole. Maybe it is if you're a fan of that team, like the Dodgers right now. But it also never plays out the way that you think it might. Like there really is no super team in baseball over 162. There just is not.
No, look at the Mets last year, like case in point. And the same thing happened to, why am I like blanking on the New Jersey Nets a few years ago. It happens in all of the sports, but yeah, like excellent point.
Yeah. So I just think it's actually more intriguing as a fan to watch the watch the Padres and the Mets as well have this different sort of take on their offseason, where they have to kind of in their minds backpedal, or in their fans' minds backpedal. But I just see them like having to be strategic, and it's more interesting, and it could make for a much more well-rounded roster, I think, overall.
Yeah. I think they did. I mean, I do think they're going to have a little bit of a better balance between like veterans and young guys. And I feel like there's a sweet spot there.
So. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and having so many new guys on the roster last year with big personalities, just letting that all balance out, there's definitely something to that. So I'm interested to see. They also have a new manager, and Mike Schilt, who was former manager of the Cardinals, who is awesome. And we as Cardinals fans are all really excited to see him get a second chance at a manager job. So yeah, I mean, I feel totally different about watching the Padres and my ability to root for them going into the season than I did last season. And that's really just because like the strategy is back in their game.
Yeah, I like that.
Not sure if strategy has much to do with the Rockies play ever, but let's talk about the Rockies.
Yeah. So, I mean, my disgust with the Monforts just, it continues. But I think I like Cal Cantrell for them. He's kind of a big name for them.
Yeah.
He's coming off a horrible year, but I like him for a comeback season in the Mile High, which like probably will be really impossible because I think righties do really well against him and righties do really well in Mile High, at a Mile High. But I think like that would be really cool if he had a comeback there. And he went 4-7 in 2023 with a 5.24 ERA. So horrible year, but he pitched in just 19 games and threw 99.2 innings. Overall, his numbers are much better career-wise. He has a career record of 35-23 and a 3.83 ERA. So overall, we know what he's capable of, and he was a part of the Guardians' 2020 and 2022 playoff seasons. So, I mean, there's not a whole lot we can say about the Rockies, right? And like, we don't ever love the stuff that they do, but
as a franchise, it's kind of easy to just poke at them and be like, what are you doing? But I do want to call out my pick for them is catcher Jacob Stallings, formerly of the Marlins. He's a Gold Glove catcher, and I love me some elite defense behind the plate. They signed him as a backup for All-Star Elias Diaz, who he was also teammates with years ago in Pittsburgh. So they're familiar with working together. He obviously has strong defense. He also has great experience working with younger pitchers. So I see him being a good resource and, just a good fit for the team as a whole. And they also signed Cardinals pitcher Dakota Hudson, who has had all kinds of interesting struggles, but he is probably the most pitch to contact pitcher you could find in the major leagues over the past few seasons. So it's really interesting that he is going to be in Coors Field, but he's also a ground ball guy. He is somebody who can get 18 ground ball outs before he gets a strikeout. So I'll be interested to see him there as well. And cool that he gets to work with a guy like Jacob Stallings behind the plate.
And while we're on the Rockies, I do want to point out, I actually really love Bud Black, their manager. And he's like such a well-liked guy. He's very well respected there. And I don't know, he's well-spoken. I think he has a good relationship and a good rapport with the players. So
yeah,
it'd be kind of cool to see.
It is really interesting. I would say the Rockies and I guess the Guardians are like the next team that I can think of that would maybe be the most similar to them in the sense that it does seem like on the field and in the clubhouse, like the vibes are there. Like they're good, they're cohesive. It seems like a good environment to play in overall, but they are being set up to fail by ownership. And that's just kind of like, you're here. We've all somehow come to accept that, but managers like Bud Black must have some way of getting them all on the same page to have some like greater goal, whether or not, they're competitive in terms of getting to the playoffs. Yeah. So that's really interesting. I would love to, Bud Black, if you're listening, you want to come on and tell us about it.
I love Buddy Black.
I'd love to know. All right. We got one more team here in
you take us
West.
Snakes alive.
Snakes alive, baby. And they have been alive all off season long. We love to see it. I mean, this is the dream, right? For a team like this to get to the World Series. And then not only do they get to the World Series, they have amazing Black Friday ticket deals to just bring more fans in for 2024. And they're going to be better in 2024. How freaking awesome is that? They re-signs Lourdes Gurriel Jr., bringing him back out of free agency for 3 years, $42 million. I was super excited to see that because he's probably my favorite Diamondbacks player. I have a hard time committing to one, but I have loved watching him play as of late, and he's obviously a great fit with the team, of great value to them. They also traded for Eugenio Suarez, who's going to be at third base, some good veteran presence there. And the other pick I liked was your pick. Tell us about him.
Yeah. So Erod, baby. I think, well, we both had the same picks. Like, obviously, yeah. So anyway, the Erod to a 4-year, $80 million contract. I mean, the guy led the Red Sox to a World Series win. So he's a guy they can count on, I think, in their like 3 spot of their rotation.
Yeah.
Last year, he posted a 13-9 record with a 3.3 ERA. So that's a great addition to their rotation.
Yeah, he got some shade last season because he had a no trade clause and he actually blocked a trade from his team, the Tigers, to the Dodgers. And at that point, halfway through the season, there was a lot of chatter about like, what kind of player are you if you don't want to go to, you know, from a team that's like really probably not a contender to the Dodgers, who are obviously contending. And I don't know, like I kind of bought into that narrative for like a hot second. And because all I was hearing was like, oh my gosh, what kind of guy is this? Like he's making up stories of why he doesn't want to go, blah, blah, blah. But like, why do no trade clauses exist if not to block you from going to the Dodgers? So good for you, Erod.
I know. Well, and you don't hear of many guys exercising it, especially on a deal like that.
Yeah.
So I like it. And I like how it all like panned out for him.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately it's there for a reason and it was his choice. And also, can you imagine, like, I'm sure no player is petty enough to do it out of spite. I'm sure he had plenty of reasons, which like he does not owe to any of us because it's his decision to make ultimately. But I can't imagine like hearing it breaks in the news that you've been traded and you're like, wait, actually, no, I haven't, because that's actually up to me. At least in a sense. And so, yeah, maybe just out of spite, he was like, actually, thanks for checking. I would not like to go.
Yeah. Nope. Blocked.
Whatever. Doesn't matter because now he's with the Diamondbacks and we love that sweet, sweet kind of extra cherry on top revenge of him not going to the Dodgers.
Yes, exactly. Can you imagine if that had gone through? That would have like changed the way everything
it really could have. I would like to think with how the Diamondbacks absolutely dominated the Dodgers in the playoffs that it wouldn't have ultimately changed the outcome. But I mean, pitching was the freaking problem. So
yeah,
absolutely could have happened. All right, let's move out of the National League West and into the American League West. We're still reading right to left, and we're going to talk about John's favorite team, the Astros.
Well, I have to say, I don't know if anyone please don't quote me on this because this could change. But right now, I don't hate them as much as I do.
What is it?
I think the Dodgers are the new villain.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. Isn't it strange how in just one offseason our emotions can be swayed so heavily?
And I'll tell you one reason why. So I'll get into it. So they signed Joe Espada to be their new manager in Dusty Baker's stead. Joe Espada is the Yankees' former third base coach. So, and what's interesting about him is he left the Yankees immediately after they ripped us off in 2017. So he went to be their bench coach. So it was a little bit sour there, but I mean, he's a very likable.
He wasn't a part of that.
Yeah, exactly. He's a very likable guy, and I think fans are super pumped about it. So that's cool. But yeah, he's been working alongside one of the best there is, and Dusty Baker, and I think he's been developing. I think as you develop relationships with the players as the bench coach, like he's already so far ahead of where like a normal manager would start, in my opinion. Like if they had brought someone from the outside in, because he already has this rapport with them. So, and then their success in the last 7 years just speaks for itself. So,
you heard it here straight from the mouth of a Yankees fan.
I'm trying to be more positive in 2024, and
you're dead on, like you're spot on. It is the dream scenario of a manager set up to just, the heir apparent. So you said it all.
Yeah. And, I think like, because it's his first managerial role too, I'm excited to see how it plays out for him. Like, I really think he will be a success. So
for sure. I know a lot of the Astros fans really would like to point the finger at Dusty Baker for their playoff elimination last season as well. So it will be interesting to see if the tides change with Espada at the helm. The other thing that I know Astros fans are really excited about is Yanier Diaz getting to take that starting catcher job. And they signed backup catcher Victor Caratini for 2 years, $12 million. So I said the best move that the Astros made this offseason was not re-signing Maldi, who was kind of like Justin Verlander's personal catcher, I think. I mean, he's been with the organization for a long time, but ultimately, like, I guess just the hole that he leaves in the lineup at the plate, that's something that I feel like we hear a lot from catchers, but from what the Astros fans tell me, it was pretty extreme, and they didn't really see his value otherwise, maybe the same way that they had before behind the plate. So he got a good deal with the White Sox, and I just think like that needed to switch up there, and it's time for Diaz to shine. It's time for him to get the spot. Let's talk about the Mariners next.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. No, I like it. I think fans are excited.
Oops, we were lagging. Sorry.
Yeah, Mariners.
Mariners.
I think I was. Sorry. So
they're another interesting one here because they are shedding payroll because I guess according to their ownership, their goal is to win 54% of the time. They have done the math. And if you win 54% of the time, that is how you are set up to succeed the most. And that's exactly what you want to tell the fans. Maybe not. Keep it in the boardroom. Anyway, that's what they're doing. My biggest highlight for them is the Luke Raley trade. Raley was traded from the Mariners for Caballero. And Raley had a breakout year offensively last season. He hit 19 home runs with a 126 plus OPS. And I could see them, at the very least, platooning him with Mitch Haniger and starting in the outfield, or maybe even getting most of the starts in the outfield out there. So they haven't done, no big money, no big, exciting, sexy signings, but they did have another good move. Yeah. What's yours?
Look, I became somewhat of a Mitch Garver stan during the postseason, so I like this for them. He's proven in big spots. He was clutch throughout the postseason. He's a veteran. Probably not enough to fulfill their on base and slugging needs, but it's something, and I like it.
Yeah, for sure. He catches too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I forget because he DHs mostly.
Right.
Cool.
So as a backup catcher, though, like that's a good option for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's kind of the reverse of what you see on most teams. Most teams have like, especially the backup catcher is like the super solid guy defensively, the guy that all the pitchers love to work with, not necessarily the guy that can slug. So awesome.
Yeah.
Oakland A's, we gotta touch on them because they're in the league and they're still the Oakland A's, at least for this season. Well, the only thing I can really pick is the only thing that they've done, which is sign Trevor Gott for $1.5 million. But what I really want to pick is for them to sell the team. John Fisher to sell the team because he's a dork. He doesn't like baseball. He doesn't like Oakland. He doesn't even really like Las Vegas. And my hot take is still, I think I've said this before. I don't think the Vegas thing is actually going to work out and happen. So I know that might sound crazy, but it's crazy that this is all happening to begin with. And poor Oakland A's, and they have a lot of exciting players in their organization, but the most exciting ones we're just going to see move up and move out for the foreseeable future. It seems like. Any hot picks for you?
Nothing. I have nothing to contribute here except, yeah, I agree. Sell, and maybe also deal my dude JP Sears, who I love, and let him go somewhere that wants to compete. That's all I have to say.
We're here for you.
There. I like your colors, but
what do you think about them moving to Vegas? If they do move to Vegas, do you think they should still be the A's, or do you think they should pick another name?
I don't know. I haven't given it any thought, really. The A's have so much history,
right?
And their fans, like I'm game with whatever their fans want.
But I don't necessarily think that like the fans are gonna be Las Vegas fans if they do move to Las Vegas. So that's kind of where I'm like, maybe do pick a new name, because I don't know. I mean, the Oakland A's fans are going to be a fan of what is the team? The Ballers or something like that. The new independent league team that's going to be there. But it kind of, or they're going to be Giants fans. They're gonna spread out.
Yeah, they may be so scoured at this point. And then when there's like 4 years of them not really having a home, maybe it makes sense then for fans to just like go off on their own and just to totally do a rebrand.
I think you see that when this happens. So we'll see. This is a story that's going to be worth following, and I'm sure we'll keep up on it and talk about it more as things continue to evolve. But the big news
I want to know what our listeners think. So if you are listening in and you have thoughts on this, please drop your comments, and I look forward to reading them.
Yeah. And if you haven't kept up on all the latest of the complications of like the layered Vegas deal of why it's very much not 100% happening, check it out, because there's a lot of good stuff out there. I mean, Ken Rosenthal has covered it extensively. He's just one of my favorites and most trusted sources, but there's a ton of people out there that cover the team specifically that are doing an awesome job of keeping up with it as well. So from one thrilling team on the West Coast to another, we've made it to the Los Angeles Angels now. And I think both of us agree on our pick here. The Angels winner for this offseason is their new manager, Ron Washington. Tell me what you like about Wash.
I mean, I think it's just a good move at this point. But I want to let you cover that, because I have a whole thing on Ohtani that I want to bring up, and we're moving through really fast. So maybe I'll just say that, and then we'll go back to you and you talk about Ron Washington, because I just want to say that I think not trading Shohei Ohtani at the trade deadline last year is going to haunt them for years to come. I don't know how they ever thought they were going to be a legitimate contender. Like, that's just my feeling, because I just don't. I felt like, and I know you probably think differently, because you thought there was a real chance, right, that they were going to get him. But I just think
Artie Moreno is that dumb. But he can't do the impossible, and he could not have offered them the deal that the Dodgers did without destroying the franchise and just completely, I mean, they would have imploded over time. So,
and at the end of the day, right, there was no way that anyone was going to compete with what the Dodgers put on the table. But I do want to give them credit, because they are very much in the talks of getting Snell, getting Bellinger, getting JD Martinez. And so I do think they're trying to be competitive, and I do think they're trying to try to fill the shoes there a little bit. So I want to give them props, because I don't think they're giving up.
Yeah. And, I mean, I agree. And I think that they owe that to the fans at this point man, Angels fans, they probably hate Artie Moreno almost as much as A's fans hate John Fisher at this point for the years and years of mistakes and mismanagement. But the one thing that he's not afraid to do is shell out money. So I'm on one hand not surprised that he's going after, they're willing to be competitive for certain contracts, and it'll really be the most interesting to see if the players want to be a part of that organization with, the history of how things have gone down and how they have managed players. But the reason our pick is Ron Washington is because he is a player's manager. He is a guy that the players trust and want to work with. And there are certain players that I think working with him and being a part of kind of that, like another almost cultural rebuild over there, could be more attractive. Like Marcus Stroman is one that keeps coming to mind for me that I think would be a really good fit over there. And I could see Ron Washington just kind of like honing his big personality and helping him get the most out of it. So there are certain players that I think could have a really good opportunity there. And likewise, it could just be like a good equal opportunity on both sides for the team and for the player. So
manifest it, because I don't want him on my team.
No Stro.
I
don't see him as a culture fit with the Yankees at all, but I've seen all of the reports these last couple days, and I know he's also like, he's said plenty of things, which is why, like, I didn't want him on the Cardinals last season, not because of his talent, but just because, and not because like I have nothing against him like personally. I just don't think that, I think a personality like his succeeds in certain situations better than others. I think that's like a very real thing. And I know that's not analytics, but I think it's a very real thing.
The culture is so important. And like, it's just something that a lot of people are like, just, he's got the dog in him and we want to win and we need that. And sometimes you do need a little bit of that, but like, it just doesn't, it's too overpowering in some situations. I agree. And I think like, the Yankees is just one of them, because we are so, strict and so like traditional, and it just doesn't, nah, fam.
I think one of the reasons that I liked him on the Cubs last year, not that I'm making this a Marcus Stroman podcast, but I just, I've like, my feelings have like changed about him so much that I find him interesting. And I remember looking down, he pitched at London Stadium when I was at the London series over the summer. And that was actually, I think he got hurt during that game and he was never quite the same for the rest of the season. But the way he does perform well under pressure. He can absolutely handle like he has like star energy. So I think that's where some Yankees fans or, just baseball fans in general are like, yeah, he could thrive with the Yankees. But the other side of him is that I think he needs to be with a team like even the Giants, the Angels, and the Cubs, I think could be fine, but they're almost like they have different levels of leadership now that I think he could clash with. Again, he needs to be somewhere where like he can be a leader and he can kind of set the tone, but also have a leader like Ron Washington or Bob Melvin, who is going to like rein that in and make sure it stays focused. So
yeah,
I am actually a psychotherapist now, and Marcus Stroman is my first victim, I guess. Anyway, that's it for the Angels. But I do agree with you that I think we will see some interesting things, some exciting things, I guess, for them. I don't think they're just going to sit and not let anything happen.
Agreed.
Let's talk our World Series champion Rangers, because they've got a lot of money tied up and a tricky situation with losing their TV deal. So we've been hearing a lot about that.
Yeah.
But is there a pick that is there a pick that you have that they have made this offseason?
Gosh, well, they've sustained so much loss between Mitch Garver, Will Smith, Aroldis Chapman, potentially, obviously Monty. I don't know what's going to happen there. We don't know. So, but yeah, they've signed a shit ton of minor league deals. And I guess the one guy I'll say is Kirby Yates. He's a right-handed reliever. He might provide some depth at the back end of their bullpen. He was 7-2 last season with a 3.28 ERA, so he might be able to come in and eat some of those innings up for them.
And they are going to need that because they've got two guys right now slotted in their rotation who Dane Dunning is like their number 4, according to Fangraphs. He's like really a swingman. And Cody Bradford, who has thrown 56 innings with a 5.3 ERA at the major league level. Those are their 4 and 5. And then, of course, they've got Eovaldi, John Gray, and Andrew Heaney, Heaney is really like a 4 or 5 guy at best, in my opinion. Yeah. So my pick for them is that they need to figure it out. They need to defer what they, take one from the Dodgers and sign J Money, bring back Jordan Montgomery. I obviously would love to see him elsewhere, but I know that's not going to happen. So the Rangers are the next best place because the other landing spot I could see for him is the Cubs. And I really don't want to see that happen. So Rangers, bring back Jordan Montgomery. You're really going to need him at least in the first half of the season and even the second half of the season. Okay, they have Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom,
right?
Who are, Scherzer is older. deGrom has never pitched super regularly, who are both set to come back midway through the season, as well as they signed Tyler Mahle, who is also recovering from Tommy John and not going to come back till halfway through the season. So I guess they're kind of banking on, getting through the first half of the season. Listen, they have one of the best offenses in baseball. I'm sure they can run that back. But I don't know, man. Even with like Scherzer and deGrom, as the pedigree speaks for itself, but I just would not feel comfortable with the 5 that you've got for opening day and counting on them to just be able to slide in there like flawlessly and potentially save you in the second half of the season. So
yeah, no, I agree. They need to do something. And I like it because, I hate it because I wanted for so long for Monty to come back, but I don't think it's realistic at this point. And I also think he wants to go back there. So
yeah, he wants that Mike Maddox claw. Who doesn't? Sign me up. Ugh. Speaking of where we're missing the Mike Maddox claw, let's head over to the NL Central.
Yeah.
And we're going to start with the Cardinals. We're just going to rip the Band-Aid. Hey, listen, it's not that bad. They did do one really exciting thing, and that is that they signed Cy Young contender this past season, Sonny Gray, for 3 years, $75 million. So he is going to be their ace, desperately needed starting pitching. That's my pick for my Cardinals. The other 2 signings that they made this offseason were very similar, similar results likely from Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson, who are veteran starting pitchers, going to eat them innings, but not necessarily another top of the rotation pitcher that like we were looking for. So this is where I come back to my resolution. I'm trying to stay positive. It's not that I don't love and appreciate Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson, because I absolutely do. But as a whole, I have a hard time like getting as excited about that as I want to be. But that is absolutely nothing against Sonny Gray. I'm super excited to have him. And I know the organization is thrilled and kind of counting on that to lead the charge in 2024.
I was going to say, you mean you're not excited about Lance Lynn? That wasn't your number 1 pick?
Listen, I love that Lance Lynn fire. Don't get me wrong.
It's only up from here for Lance Lynn. And did you see that? I think I posted it on Babes that his wife had posted, like, she was really throwing some shade at him.
Oh, yeah.
She awesome. Posted him, like, she's like, he's not going to be the leading walk.
Home runs. He gave it
the leading home run. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they built a pitching tunnel in their house, which actually they live in the same town that my aunt and uncle live in. Shout out to Marion, Illinois. And
no way.
Illinois. Yeah, it's a pretty small town. They probably see each other all the time. No. No. Yeah. But yes, Diamond Lynn, she is a really good social media follow if you're not following Lance Lynn's wife.
She is hilarious. But on that note, so I was going to say what I thought was a good move for you guys was trading away injury-prone Tyler O'Neill, because you were able then to, sign some of that pitching depth. And because you had a surplus of outfielders, I thought it was a good move.
Yeah, I am a Bro fan. I love Tyler O'Neill. but it was time for him, the Cardinals, to part ways. It was just kind of to the point where one was not going to get what they wanted out of the other either way. So I've said this before, but Tyler O'Neill, there's only like one way this goes. He has a great season and he's healthy and he gets way overpaid because he's a Scott Boras client. And there's no way he's going to play for the Cardinals next year anyway. Or he doesn't perform this season and, you know, is barred with injuries again, potentially, and they don't sign him as a free agent. So either way, and to your point, they don't need him and he doesn't really fit in. And I think there was a big cultural element to that as well, but that's a whole nother baseball psychotherapist with Kelsey episode. So I won't go into that now. Wow. I should like have, what is like the Dr. Laura or something? Like I'm like the baseball's Dr. Laura, except I just made myself.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You need to do one of these episodes on Peace, Love, and Baseball.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where if you just don't understand what's going on with a player, like what is wrong? Why can't Tyler O'Neill get his shit together? Write to me, ask me, and I'll tell you my deep, emotional, twisted theories.
There you go.
Let's talk about the Cubs because we have to. I said it. The Cubs are, you know, I did provide, speaking of Peace, Love, and Baseball, I did provide a free meditation for Cubs fans on this week's episode of Peace, Love, and Baseball because I am sick of seeing the Cubs fans just like have a hissy fit in my Twitter feed every day. And now it's night and day from Tuesday to now. It's like the Cubs fans are awakened. They went from being like dead fall leaves to now the spring flowers are out and they are ready to go because the Cubs have signed Shota Imanaga from Japan for 4 years, $53 million. He is a starting pitcher. He has a 3.18 ERA over 8 seasons in the NPB, and he has more strikeouts than innings pitched with a 9.2 strikeout rate per 9. So they finally, that's really like the first big free agent signing. That is the first signing, or they haven't done any trades or anything yet. But, you know, they were like at least trying to get on the phone with Ohtani and Yamamoto. And I think Boras is really holding them up, playing a tough game with Cody Bellinger. I think they're very much still in that. But yeah, they got the Shota signing, and that has revived the fans. I am so glad to see it. But keep taking some deep breaths, guys, because I think this is only the beginning. Do you think that the Cubs have a good shot at re-signing Bellinger at this point?
Yeah, I do. They need to.
Yeah, I just think like I think Boras is going to milk him for all that he's possibly worth to them. So yeah. I think that's the holdup, but I think he wants to be there when you're in that kind of situation that Bellinger was coming into the season and you find success there. It's like, I don't see why he wouldn't want to stay, and they certainly have the money. So they're just working on getting them to put it up, I think, for him. And then obviously their other huge offseason acquisition was their manager, Craig Counsell, who I love so much. And I'm going to have a very hard time watching him manage in Chicago. But that's the other number one reason that I don't think there's any reason to be concerned about the Cubs' level of competitiveness in 2024. When they signed Craig Counsell to that large managerial contract, they said, we're coming. And they're coming one way or another, and they're balanced enough. Like, they're not a team that has like gaping holes. They're balanced enough that they can be flexible with the way that the market fluctuates. So that's why, like, I'm not really worried on them missing out on one specific player and then just like falling to the wayside like some of these other teams who have more specific needs. So just calm down, Cubs fans. You're gonna be fine, and I'm gonna be annoyed by you all season long.
No, I agree. I just feel like they still have like a lot up their sleeve. And so I'm not really jumping at anything right now that I feel like, oh, this is like anything good. I mean, they haven't done a whole lot. I like Craig Counsell for them. I think that's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. And Shota Imanaga, big signing there. But I feel like, you know, the verdict is very much out on him. There are a lot of people who have some like concerns maybe about his ability to transition over from the MPP. And so I feel like, yeah, a lot of teams didn't act on him because of that. He tended to be a home run prone. So that raises a lot of questions about the power hitters that he'll face in the MLB. So verdict out. On paper, he looks good, but I don't know how that translates to MLB. So, yep. John. Yeah, thanks for ruining my night, John. Just kidding.
This is so crazy because we were just talking about this and we were just like, no, Stroh, don't go with the Yankees. Yankees, don't go with Stroh. Well,
but the one reason why I'm not going to get in a twist about this is that the Yankees extended an offer to Snell reportedly earlier this evening as well. And so if we get both, holy shit.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get like in a twist about it right now. It could be really good. And I don't know, by the end of the year, I'll be like a freaking Marcus Stroman stan, I guess, probably. But
the one thing that the one thing that I do not think anyone needs to be concerned about over there is like, he is up for the pressure. I could see him being like taking himself to the next level, being in that environment, which is not true for all players. And that is something really specific that I do think the Yankees look for and sometimes see players go the opposite way with.
Yeah. And actually, to your point too, like, I feel like, the Yankees organization, and I've been thinking of this about Alex Verdugo too, they're going to get there and they're going to know they can't pull those shenanigans with the Yankees organization. There's just no tolerance for that. So, I think we're going to see a shift in like our attitude about them, and, maybe they won't be so like, maybe we'll get to the
Yankees in a bit. Let's stick with our central recap here. We've still got so far to go.
We have a lot to get through.
Feels like we're on a roll, but we've still got a long way to go. We don't have to talk too long about the Brewers because they haven't done a ton. They did re-sign Wade Miley, starting pitcher, 1 year, $8.5 million. He's projected to have a 3.73 ERA in 2024 at his age 37 season. So I thought that was a pretty good deal on both sides. Great veteran leadership, really solid guy for them, and with where the organization is likely going to be at in 2024. And they made a big minor league signing too. Tell us about it.
Yeah, extending their 19-year-old power hitting outfielder Jackson, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Is it Churio? That's rumored to be the best deal that they have going for them at this point. So he gets an 8-year, $82 million deal. And that's exciting for them. They have a lot of young talent, a lot of young prospects, and that's one of them. So stay tuned on him.
For sure. That was a massive, massive deal for them.
Yes.
Talking about the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds are doing a few things.
John, I hope you're with us still.
Yeah, John, we're here for you and Cincinnati Reds fans. Cincinnati Reds signing Frankie Montas, starting pitcher, to a 1 year, $16 million kind of pillowy deal for him. And then they also signed Nick Martinez, who is another good veteran starting pitcher, which I know is something that John, our resident Reds fan, was looking to see. So Nick Martinez signs for 2 years, $26 million. He does have an opt-out, I believe, after the first year. So go shove and get paid again, Nick Martinez. But obviously those are two veteran starting pitchers that are going to stabilize a otherwise young but promising pitching staff. They also have an awesome pitching coach, Derek Johnson. So I'm looking forward to watching some Cincinnati Reds pitching this season.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. So they really focused on second and third tier free agents, and they came away with 4 significant additions to their pitching staff. So that's exciting for them. Probably the biggest acquisition was, like you said, Frankie Montas. And I like that for different reasons than you do. It's a huge gamble, and I did not want the Yankees to re-sign him. So I'm relieved. He's a gamble because he's injury prone, but when he's on, holy crap. And that's the Yankees. That's the Yankees' luck. That's their MO, that a guy like him will leave and he will absolutely shove in Cincinnati. So All the best to Frankie Montas and on to the Pirates.
Yeah, I think that was a good reason for. I didn't want Frankie Montas on the Cardinals last season either, but it's like a low risk, high reward, honestly, situation for the Reds here to just kind of cushion and solidify their pitching staff. Pirates are doing some things. The main thing that they're doing that we absolutely love is that they are bringing back King Andrew McCutchen on a 1-year, $5 million deal to break some more records, to be so fun and amazing to watch. So that's our big shout out for the Pirates. They also signed left-handed pitcher Martin Perez, 1 year, $8 million, and Rowdy Tellez, left-handed power hitter, going to DH over there for 1 year, $3.2. Anything else the Pirates are doing that caught your eye?
Yeah, so one thing on Kutch is that he's 1 home run away from 300, so that's exciting. And I also wanted to throw in Billy McKinney they got from the Yankees, so he's gonna hit no matter what. So he's a safe get for them. He continually puts himself in good hitting positions. He doesn't have huge raw power, but he carries the ball. The ball does carry off his bat and enough to where he gets homers. So he could be around like a 15 to 20 home run guy. And the term that we coined for him in New York is Billy can bang. So I think that's a good that's a good fit, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think Pirates fans will have a lot of fun with him. Yeah. I want to go back to the Reds just super quick because I totally missed that the Reds signed Brett Suter today, which I love because I love him and I think he's super versatile. And again, like getting a little worried about the Central Division and the level of competitiveness. John Mozeliak, hello. Are you listening? Are you paying attention? Because the Reds keep getting better. I know Brett Suter is not like a huge signing or anything, but I think he's a piece that could be a difference maker in a handful of games. And when it comes down to it, that is what it comes down to. So awesome. That is super exciting.
No, I love that you just said that too, because as I was mapping out all the teams today and like my favorite moves, I was looking at the NL Central and I was like, holy crap, this has gone from a division that I didn't really pay any attention to because, like it was just always Cardinals. But like, I'm really excited at the level of competition happening there right now. It's fun for me.
And honestly, like I'm here for it because it's what has to happen for the Cardinals organization to stop just playing to skis into the playoffs.
Right.
Like the whole division has to level up and is gonna level them up. So I'm here for it.
1000%.
Let's go, Reds and Cubs. All right, AL Central time. We made it to the White Sox. I know Drew had to go, but he is going to be listening in at a later date, so we want to make sure that we cover them well. And the biggest thing that we kind of talked about earlier that we like that the White Sox are doing is this kind of cultural rebuild where maybe they don't have the highest paid players. Obviously, maybe they don't have the biggest names, but they do have some really good, solid ball players who are just going to come and put their head down and create a completely different narrative and kind of energy in Guaranteed Rate Field. One that I want to call out is former Cardinals shortstop Paul DeJong, who signed with them and is obviously going to be their starting shortstop since they are not going to be working with Tim Anderson anymore. And Paul DeJong is just like, I'm rooting for Tim Anderson. Don't get me wrong. He's another one I think Ron Washington could sort out. But Paul DeJong, I think, he is the anti-Tim Anderson and all of the ways that you need him to be to come in and just like smooth things over and be this like quiet, humble guy. Like that's really the energy that the White Sox need right now. And I see them doing the work, doing the work where they might just have to keep their heads down for a little bit to get out of the hole, but headed in the right direction. We also talked about your pick earlier that they signed the Astros catcher Martin Maldonado.
Yes, and the reason why I think that this is a good move for them is because I just see the value that he can improve, he can help, he can provide to their pitching staff. his teammates, former coaches have given him such high praise in that regard. Like, he's a genius behind the plate. He's, I wrote an article on this for Fansided, and I was doing a lot of research on, and I listened to this interview that Ryan Presley had done where he literally said, like, on the plane, Maldi always gets like his computer out. Like, everyone will be taking a nap, sleeping, lights are out. There's one light on in the plane, and it's Maldi. He's got a computer on one side. He's got notes on the other. He's looking at your OPS. He's looking at what you do in this situation and in that situation. And are you more aggressive in this scenario versus this scenario? And so he like is able to provide an entire report to his pitchers, and just he really helps them a lot. And he's been given a lot of high praise in that regard. So article I wrote on Martin Maldonado, I'm going to link in the comments.
I read it. It was awesome. And I mean, perfect points. And it makes me think of, I have started to think that the White Sox are not going to trade Dylan Cease. And while I'm kind of like, I don't know, that could be a mistake because obviously his trade value is higher now than it would be if he does not pitch well in the first half of the season. But if he has the opportunity to work with a guy like Maldonado, who has proven to be the difference for a number of guys, especially, I don't know. Again, I'm kind of I'm analyzing from a very high level of the type of guys that maybe would specifically benefit from him, but I could see Dylan Cease being one of those guys. So
yeah,
could be something. White Sox.
Yep. Yeah, I like that.
The Twins are another team that there's not a whole lot to talk about because, unfortunately, even though they just broke their playoff drought in 2023, and they have such an awesome fan base, man. I'm going to cover the Twins on an upcoming episode of Peace, Love, and Baseball in the next few weeks here, and I am talking to a couple different fans and a writer, and like, they just have such an awesome fan base that I'm bummed to see this happening for them. But they like haven't done any of the things. I think they need some starting pitching now because they seem to get rid of a lot of it, but I just feel like they should sign Rhys Hoskins. That was my suggestion, because I don't really know. I feel like he's within maybe the range at which they'd be willing to spend and could be a fit there. Any thoughts for the Twins?
I mean, other than the fact that their stove is freezing cold. No, I mean, they haven't done anything, but I did read an article earlier today that said, they did sign last year, they traded for Maeda, Gray, Lopez, and signed Correa all like very, very last minute. And so they could be one of those teams that like comes in hot at the end. We'll see.
That is very true. Let's talk about the Cleveland Guardians next. You're going to call out their new manager hiring here. Tell us about Stephen Vogt.
Yeah, so Chris Antonetti, their president, had said they were looking for three things. He said they were looking for a collaborative partner, a caring connector, and finally a self-confident learner. And with those three things in mind, I feel like they nailed it. So having just retired as a player in 2022, he's not far removed from the game. He's connected with how the game's played today. And I also am just going to put my faith in the fact that maybe, just maybe, Tito weighed in on this decision.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think they have similar vibes in some ways. And Stephen Vogt is a player's manager. So I think it's a really good transition, really good call for the organization. And the thing that I have been hearing whispers of the most in potential trade talks for the Guardians is a trade between the Guardians and the Cubs, because the Cubs maybe want some of their starting pitching. And I like that only because, I mean, Stroman's off the board now, we know, so he's obviously not coming back. So I could see this more likely to happen. And I really love Christopher Morel, but I have a hard time rooting for him on the Cubs. So I would have an easier time rooting for him if he was on the Guardians, and I think he could get some more everyday playing time and succeed in an everyday role at third base. So Guardians, go get Christopher Morel. Just don't give up too much for him. Moving on down the line, we got the Detroit Tigers, who offered my boy Jack Flaherty a 1-year, $14 million pillow deal. That's going to be my call out for the Tigers. I know they've probably done some more lucrative things that stand out to the fan base, but that's what I like because I really do think Jack Flaherty still has that raw stuff in there that can be worked through with the right organization, and felt like that was a fair place for him to land. Anything the Tigers have done that you like?
I will just say, I think acquiring Mark Canha from the Brewers, I think from everything that I have read, he's very disciplined at the plate, which I think translates over to the young talent that they have. And I'm hoping that he can be a mentor for their young hitters and pass some of that on. So that's my call out.
I think the Tigers might be a little sneaky good, and that division is open for the taking.
It really is
kind of my team to watch in terms of maybe not expecting much, but don't sleep on them.
However, and we're going to get to this. This is a perfect segue, because I feel like the team that's been the loudest in this division, who like everyone's saying like, no, don't sleep on them. The Royals,
the Kansas City Royals.
They have been busy.
They had the second worst record in all of baseball. The A's had the worst. The Royals were second. They've lost over 100 games for a few seasons in a row now, I think. But yeah, they have done more than a few things, and they might just mess around and not win 100 games next year.
Yeah.
My favorite thing that they've done is that they signed Michael Wacha, starting pitcher, for 2 years, $32 million, not just because he's a former Cardinal, but the last 2 seasons, Michael Wacha played with 2 different teams, the Boston Red Sox and then the San Diego Padres. Over the last 2 seasons, he went 24-6 with a 3.27 ERA. And I feel like that was just, honestly, he was ready for any team to come and swoop up as kind of an under the radar steal of somebody who could be so freaking solid and without spending that, Snell or Nola money. So I think some teams, even teams like the Cardinals, even teams like the Yankees, missed out on Michael Wacha, but good for him for taking this pretty good payday and not waiting around for it, because he is one of the guys that when they miss out on Snell and Montgomery, they're going to really wish that he was still on the board. So I'm glad that I think he actually played to the top of his value by going with it. And I was surprised that Kansas City was the team that was willing to pay up for him, but good for him. Who do the Royals have, though, that is just literally the writing is on the wall? They're winning the World Series in 2024.
Yep. So my pick is left-handed pitcher Will Smith for very obvious reasons. He brings that Will Smith magic with him. 3 straight World Series championships with 3 different teams in the last, 4 years? 3 or 4 years?
3 years in a row.
4 years. 3 years in a row. 3 years in a row. Braves, Astros, and obviously the Rangers. So
world champion, Kansas City Royals.
He's seen it all, and he's probably gained some insider knowledge along the way and just like learned a lot from all of those organizations and all those coaching staffs. So I like that for them.
They're obviously going the run prevention route, I think, which I like for them with where they are at fundamentally. I like that approach. All right, we made it through the Centrals. Moving on over. Okay, we made it. We're reading all the way across. We're getting towards the end of the book here. National League East. We are going to start with the Phillies because they didn't do much, but they did exactly what they needed to do. They signed Aaron Nola for 7 years, $172 million. Really the first big signing of the offseason. And they don't need to do anything else. Run it back. The Phillies are so high on vibes. So, they've got it all, and I think their time is coming. I'm calling a Phillies World Series ring within the next 3 seasons. It's going to happen. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There literally is nothing that they need to do other than they need to be focusing forward to how they're going to retain Zach Wheeler next year.
Yep.
And then I like that they extended Rob Thompson.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. I think he's been a big part of keeping their culture nice and cohesive. But man, I think like if I could be a part of any clubhouse, like if I'm going to go to a barbecue with any clubhouse, like it might be the Phillies team right now.
Same.
Oh, the Braves have been very busy though. And I am hoping that I will get to go to Phillies opening day at Citizens Bank Park this year, and they are playing the Braves. So the Braves have been plenty busy. We do not have nearly enough time to tell you all the things that Alex Anthopoulos has been up to because he has been busy. But I do want to say that I like the Ronaldo Lopez signing for them. Lopez finished last season with the Guardians, but he is going to be stretched back out to start, is what I think they've put out there. And he hasn't really done that since he was with the White Sox in 2018 and 2019. He's actually not made a start since 2022. He made one in 2022. So
Wow.
I think it's a good fit obviously they're like really trying to pad their pitching and being like, if things can go wrong, the writing is on the wall of where they can go wrong for the Braves now, that they're like not going to take that chance again. I thought that might be the only thing they really needed to do, but apparently they also wanted Chris Sale, which we all know about that trade if you are a baseball fan and I've been following the offseason in any way, shape, or form. Red Sox basically offloaded Chris Sale and said, we'll essentially pay for him, just take him off our hands. And initially I was like, well, hell yeah, why not? Like if he's bad in the clubhouse, if he gets hurt again, if he just sucks, whatever, he's basically free. But then they signed him to a new 2-year deal, and they're going to pay him $38 million for what? I don't know. Apparently people just want to give Chris Sale money, guaranteed money one way or another. So I guess good for him, but I think that might come back to bite the Braves. Anything else that the Braves have done that you find worth mentioning here?
Yeah, I mean, just as you mentioned, like they have made a lot of really bold, risky moves, and one of them is when they traded for Jared Kelenic from the Mariners, but he's only 24, but he was the number 1 draft pick in 2018, or the first round draft pick. He was drafted to the Mets in 2018 to fill like a need that they have sort of in left field. So the league's waiting for him to have a breakout year. But like, think about it. This guy was coming in like right as COVID was happening. And I'm just like really feeding off the energy of like these young guys learning things from the older veterans. And so maybe him going to a place where he's got Acuna Jr. and he's got Olsen to learn from, like maybe he will have that breakout year that he's been waiting for since he was drafted. So
I do think that is an important balance. We see it just working with the most successful teams. And I completely agree with you that I think like the hype was almost like too high for him with the Mariners, and he just like missed the jump off or something. Maybe being, right up there with J-Rod, he just kind of like was in the shadow. So I forget that he's only 24.
J-Rod's a younger guy too. And so like, who's he going to learn from? Like maybe he just needs that leadership of like Matt Olson taking him under his wing. And yeah, I like that. I like to think that will happen.
Me too. Marlins, the Miami Marlins, who I was super high on last season. I don't know. I guess like my suggestion is going to be, I think they need to re-sign Jorge Soler. I guess I don't think they will, but I don't really know because I'm still depressed about Kim Ng. Fortunately, we do have something else to be excited about. Who's your pick for the Marlins?
Yeah, I mean, they have just been so quiet because probably has something to do with the fact that
Bruce Sherman likes yachts more than winning baseball.
Yes, that's absolutely. And their freaking front office is a disaster. It has been. So Rachel Balkovec is my pick. And this doesn't really pertain to the, major league team because they hired her to be their farm director. But I like that for their organization. I hate that for the Yankees. I was hoping that she would be promoted to our front office, but I have a sneaky suspicion that maybe she applied for our hitting coach job and didn't get it and then moved on, because this job that she's taking has been vacant since 2022. So like, were they really out actively looking for someone, or did she like know that it was available? And then when she didn't get the hitting job, like I have no idea. I have not heard this from anyone, but this is my like, just my gut feeling.
I think that is a fair read on the situation. And I mean, at least it's good to see them, since they have, I mean, more or less without saying it, said like, we're not investing in our major league team, that they're hopefully investing in the development of their farm system so they can be competitive one way or another. I don't know, man. I was so bummed because I just really felt like they were on an upward trajectory, and it fell so quickly. But still love you, Skip Schumacher, John Jay. Jake Berger is like one of my favorite players in the league right now, and I was so happy to see him get moved to the Marlins at the deadline. But now I'm kind of like, all right, we gotta keep Jake Berger on a winning team. Come on.
I know, like you can't bring Jake Berger in and then not do you can't not keep Soler and Josh Bell.
Yeah, right. Like, Luis
okay.
Arias. There's so much there, but it's not a full puzzle. I don't know. All right, let's talk about another puzzle that's very expensive and kind of falling apart, and that is the New York Mets. The New York Mets. Uncle Steve has been a little bit quieter this offseason, but still doing the things. They signed Luis Severino. They signed Harrison Bader. They signed Joey Wendell. As I mentioned with the Padres earlier, they are having to be a little bit more strategic. The signings are more interesting because they are more strategic and not just like throwing money at people. But they made a trade with the Milwaukee Brewers, and they acquired Tyrone Taylor as well as starting pitcher Adrian Hauser. And I love that for them because it elevates them on both sides of the ball. And these are the kinds of moves I think they could have made last offseason that would have set them up better than like focusing their efforts on trying to sign Carlos Correa. But I digress. What do you like about the Mets going into 2024 so far?
I like, I hate that they stole our bench coach, Carlos Mendoza, but I like it. I think I like it. If I were a fan of them, I think it's a good move. He's a really, really cool guy. And they had him on the mayor's office, which Chinch, who we had on in December, it was so amazing. They had him on like just days after they announced the signing, and he's just a really cool, interesting guy. So if you get a chance, and we'll link it in our show notes so you can go watch their show, an interview with him. So yeah, I mean, they've made some moves that like I don't like because they're taking like all of my former like loves, Severino and Bader.
I am going to have to like sedate myself to watch Harrison Bader and Pete Alonso like bro out the season. I need some Pepto. We need to move on. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to.
One thing I want to say though, with David Stearns moving there and them acquiring a couple pitchers from the Brewers, I think they might be in a good position to sign Brandon Woodruff, because if they're not going to compete this year, then like they might as well sign him because he's going to be ready to go for 2025. So if that's their goal, is to like really just reset this year, that would be a really good fit.
I think they might win more games this year though than they did last year, to be honest.
I think so too. Like the pressure's off. It's interesting. I don't
know. There's something about actually having to make a puzzle fit as opposed to just buying the most expensive one.
Yeah,
that puts itself together for you, because it doesn't actually ever put itself together for you. Me and my analogies. All right, let's talk about the Nationals real quick, because there's just not a whole lot to talk about the Nats these days. I want to give a call out, Nationals fans, if you're listening. You might not know about Juan Yepes, but we as Cardinals fans do, and we were bummed to see him be non-tendered by the organization, but we get it. I do think that he is a player that will get a better opportunity and be somebody for a different organization, and that could be the Washington Nationals. So they have signed Juan Yepes to a minor league contract, and I certainly see him being up in the big leagues with them, at least at some point in 2024. Did they do anything else?
Well, I will throw in Nick Senzel, who's a utility player. And on paper, I think that's good. He's extremely underwhelming at this point, but as he's a former first round draft pick too.
Yeah, he was he was another one who had like a lot of excitement and a lot of pressure. And did he come up like in the 2022? I'm trying to remember. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it's just been in the last few years. So
Yeah,
it's a gamble, but I also don't hate it for them because they weren't doing anything to fill that spot to replace Candelario. So like there's that. He slides in there. But they're in a rebuild phase and let's buy some time because they have some good prospects coming up. So they could also use a veteran pitcher to eat some innings up for them, but they have not done that yet. So.
Oh, the Nats. We shall see. All right, we made it to our last division, last handful of teams here. We've talked about the Yankees a lot because we had some breaking news. And of course, we've got our Yankees connoisseur here, but we made it to the AL East. I'm going to let Jonna gush about Juan Soto. And I'm just going to say, well, I guess my pick for the Yankees was that they need to sign a serious starting pitcher. Now, I guess my question is, do I consider Marcus Stroman enough of a serious starting pitcher? You're like, no, absolutely not. I do think that he will be more useful for them than maybe a lot of Yankees fans think, but I do agree with you that they probably need at least one more, at least of his caliber, if not, ideally more like a Snell.
Yep. So that's my feeling too, that they're not done, but at the same time, like things are moving quickly now. Yeah. And I feel like they felt probably like they needed to snatch Stroman up while things are like they're waiting to see what's happening on Snell. They're waiting to see what's happening on Montgomery. Like all of those things are just being like held up. And in the meantime, like in the past, I could see the Yankees missing out on someone like Stroman because they're so like blinders on, just, focused on like the end goal. So
yeah, the Yankees and the Cardinals have that in common this offseason because of the seasons that they're coming off of. And they both are notorious for, I shouldn't say the Cardinals are not as notorious for it, but that's what they did supposedly the last couple seasons, was they kind of sat and tried to wait it out for specific wants and desires. And this season they were just like, can't sit around and wait. It's better have something than nothing.
Yeah. And that's like kind of the approach I'm seeing. Yeah. From the Yankees too. And so I'm happy. I'll take that. But so obviously everyone expects me to say Juan Soto's that's my answer. And obviously it is, but I'm not going to get into detail because we all know why I am happy to see Juan Soto.
It's Juan Soto.
New York. So I'm going to play devil's advocate actually. And I'm going to explain why I don't hate the Alex Verdugo deal.
Okay. Tell me about it.
So we got him for nothing. Like we gave three relief pitchers from AAA. One who would see like every once in a while he would get we would pull him up. But I don't even know if he had any more options left. So we literally got him for nothing. And if we hate him, we can deal him at the deadline, right?
Yeah, if he's obsolete by that point.
Yeah. And also we'll have the Martian coming back around that time. Right. So yeah, we can always deal him away. And he adds a lefty to the lineup where we just absolutely that was a huge hole for us. And he's one that can hit some dingers over the short porch. That's why we needed a lefty, right? Because they do well with the short porch. So he puts the ball in play, and I think he also gets on base. And I think that's a good cushion around Soto and Judge that we didn't have before.
Yeah, I think there were two things about the Verdugo deal that Yankees fans probably initially reacted to differently. And the points that you're making are very valid because it puts it in perspective. But the first thing was like that it happened when they were all waiting to hear about Soto. And it was kind of like, wait, Soto's not going to happen. And this is what we get instead. So
Yeah.
fortunately, then Soto happened and they're like, okay, well, whatever, Verdugo,
Yeah.
who cares? But then the other thing is like, he has a bit of an attitude. He has had some behavioral issues, I guess, or some, some talks of him not being the best teammate and stuff like that. But to your point that you made earlier, like that is simply not going to fly. And it's in the year where he's going into free agency, I would really hope that at the very least he would try to make the best showing. And like, who wants to be talked about that way?
Yeah.
I don't know. So if he can't get it together, it's certainly not going to bide well past this season. So whatever.
I also don't know what's happening in Boston, but like it seems like it's toxic right now. Chris Sale was really upset at being traded away. Like Verdugo was really upset at first. There's something going on there that is just not being talked about. Their front office is kind of a disaster right now. And so I just feel like, and I don't know, maybe Alex Cora has some weird bad blood with players too. I don't know.
He's definitely good with Verdugo. So
yeah. And so maybe just a reset, a new, fresh place is what these guys need. And like, he's not going to come in and pull that shit with Juan Soto and like Stanton and Judge and Garrett Cole and like legit proven leaders.
Right.
So I'm confident.
That's so true. And it's a very good point that like, just as I always, obviously like we can't speak to the dynamics of playing on a Major League Baseball team, but even as a leader of organizations and in like business, I always like to think of it that way. And I know there are employees that I have managed before that under different leadership, like they have been nightmares, but and other people have said things to me of where like, I don't know how you're getting this out of them. And it's like, if you have the right, sometimes it's just like, you gotta click, and it might be nothing like personally that Alex Cora is doing wrong or anyone else, but it's the vibes are just not there. They're not right. They're not aligning. And sometimes it just takes the right leadership to get totally different results and get people singing a totally different tune. So I absolutely agree that could happen. And of course, that's what we hope for. But speaking of the Red Sox, their fans are frustrated for obvious reasons. They are in a weird place, but I do think that they got a good pickup for Chris Sale in Vaughn Grissom, who is an exciting prospect coming from the Braves organization. I would assume he's going to be their starting second baseman, and he's someone who I could really see be elevated by getting to play next to somebody like Trevor Story in the infield every day. They also signed Lucas Giolito for 2 years, $38.5 million. And while I think that seems like a lot for Lucas Giolito to a lot of people, it is maybe missed how solid and consistent Lucas Giolito is. And he's just one of those guys that is going to go out there and make 35 starts and get it done and help your team win more than lose. And that's really all that matters right now, especially for a team like the Red Sox and where they're at. Yeah,
I agree. So I felt like the Sale Grissom deal was like one of the most balanced trade deals I've seen. When I was weighing out both, I was just like, I can't think of anything really negative to say on either side. So I think both teams fared pretty well in that deal. I think it was time for a change of scenery for Sale. He was never going to be an ace there, but he's going to fit really well at the back end of the Braves rotation. And yeah, I think Grissom has a high ceiling as a middle infielder. So
yeah, it's a good example of how value is much more than just market values or like money, in terms of how a player is currently valued. So that was an interesting one for sure.
For sure.
Another team that's always really interesting to watch all season long because they just have their own approach to everything is the Tampa Bay Rays. And they're making moves, doing things, maybe, again, not spending money because that's not their thing. But they did acquire another Cardinals outfielder, which has bided very well for them with Randy Arozarena. So look out for Randy Arozarena 2.0. The Rays have acquired outfielder Richie Palacios in a trade with the St. Louis Cardinals for right-handed relief pitcher Andrew Kittredge, who is, 34. He's got a beard. He's got a mid ERA, so he's going to fit right in with the Cardinals. And Richie Palacios has star energy, man. I mean, he doesn't have a whole lot of big league service time, but he was pivotal for the Cardinals in the second half of last season. And more than anything, he just brought like the energy and the smiles to our faces that we so desperately needed. So again, like potential wise, I'm not going to say that he's somebody that like had a super high trade value or was on anybody's radar, but I think they traded him at the right time while his value was high, and he could be a really fun player for the Rays to watch. And I obviously wish him nothing but the best. And then they also got, we kind of mentioned this trade already, Jose Caballero from the Mariners for the Rayleigh trade. And Caballero is not super hot at the plate. He is, however, super hot at shortstop. And you're going to see him making web gems all season long. And he's probably going to play every day because, Wander Franco is not going to be there. We don't need to spend time talking about that, but any thoughts on the Rays?
No, I mean, just to your point in Palacios, the Rays do a really good job of developing young guys like that who don't have like a lot of big league experience because they have to, because they don't acquire free agents. They often have to do it's trades for them, and it's bringing up young talent. So maybe that's a good spot for him to be. Their hands are so tied that, like I said, it's trades. And so I think they fared pretty well in the Glasnow trade. They acquired, you mentioned earlier, Ryan Pepio, who will slip right into their rotation, and then Johnny DeLuca, who I think will add some instant outfield depth. And that is all I had to say on them. So Blue Jays it is.
From the Rays to the Blue Jays. Well, Blue Jays have signed an old friend of yours. Tell us about IKF.
Yeah, I'm sad about IKF, although there was not a place for him in New York, but he is such a solid utility guy. And like, listen, he has such a good attitude. He lost his starting spot as shortstop from 2022 to Anthony Volpe. And he had such a good attitude about being like just playing everywhere. In fact, he did play every single position except for catcher. And even that he could have played because he did catch a little bit in high school.
Wow.
So, and like he'd come in and be a relief pitcher for us when we just like needed to, preserve some arms. So given the amount of injuries the Blue Jays consistently have, especially going into like the end of the year, I think this is a really smart signing for them.
I agree. Yeah. He would have been clutch for them in the second half of the season last year. That's for sure. So not surprised to see that, and good for him. The biggest thing on my radar for the Blue Jays is they need to sign a power hitter. They need somebody else besides Vladdy G in that lineup to get the ball out of the park. So I'm sure they have their eye on Jorge Soler, even JD Martinez. I have seen a lot of talks about Cody Bellinger, their interest in Cody Bellinger. I don't necessarily see where he would fit in terms of like at least consistency, which I think they like over there in Toronto. So we'll see, but go get you a power hitter, Blue Jays, and way to keep Kevin Kiermaier out there in center field. We love to see that.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Orioles, who are another team that I guess haven't necessarily done as much as I think maybe we thought they would. You know what? I have an interesting pick here in that I like the Craig Kimbrell signing for them. I still believe in Craig Kimbrell, and not just because I liked that he gave up a lot of runs for the Cardinals late in the season and gave us some hope when hope was lost. But they did sign relief pitcher Craig Kimbrell to a 1-year, $13 million deal. And their closer, Bautista, is out, I think, is he out through the whole season or maybe just through half of the season? Either way,
probably about till the deadline-ish.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. So ultimately, I think that they will utilize him as ideally as more of a setup man. And that is where he is better utilized because he has some really weird quirks that do not, at this point in his career, do not make him an ideal closer. And at this point in the way that the game has evolved with the pitch clock and everything. So I think the reason that maybe Orioles fans or baseball fans as a whole are not super into it is because they see him as the closer. Totally get that. But hey, if he can be the setup man, I think we like him there.
Yep. I think you nailed it on the head with that. I mean, this is a guy heading into his 17th year in the bigs. And he had another all-star year last year. He was an all-star and he had a 3.26 ERA. So I don't think it's anything that Orioles fans should scoff at. They said from the get-go that they needed to go out and get a veteran innings eater, and they did exactly that. So, but they could really use another starter. So they have not expressed any interest in picking one up in free agency. So, but also they would have a tough time making a trade deal happen because everyone's going to want to take advantage of their young talent. So I don't know that they would be able to accommodate a deal that I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they could, but not anyone they probably would want to give up.
Right. That's kind of how I feel about the Cardinals right now too, in terms of like they very much could on some level afford to hypothetically trade for a starting pitcher, but not in a way that doesn't really throw things off that are already set in stone from the way that the organization sees them playing out in this season and, the next 3 to 5 years. So they're probably the one that I'm like the most uncertain of what we could see from them up until the season starts and even up until the deadline. I don't know. Cause a lot of it, you're like, run it back, but they lacked starting pitching ultimately was their downfall, even once they dominated the division and got into the playoffs, and they don't even have most of that starting pitching any longer. So we shall see. We made it through all 30 teams.
Yeah. It was a lot at times. I felt we were like, because we're coming up on 2 hours at this, but
wow. We did it though. I think we just had to go for it. Gotta start the new year off strong, So I'm glad we did it. Thank you for tuning in, for hanging with us, for contributing. If you are watching live on YouTube, shout out. Thanks for hanging with us, and we very much appreciate your participation. We are hoping to get on more of a consistent schedule as one of our podcast resolutions, so stay tuned for that. But if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you would like to watch on YouTube, you can find us at Babes Podcast on YouTube. Hit the subscribe, leave a comment, join the conversation. You can also follow Babes Pod on Twitter and Babes Podcast on Instagram. And you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast. If you feel so inclined, we would love it if you give us a 5-star rating. 5 stars, obviously. 5 stars. Any less, just, never mind. Forget I asked. But maybe leave a comment or two as well, or a review, especially on the podcast platforms. If you take an extra minute or two to do that, I think that makes a huge difference these days because I don't know about you, there's so much to consume that I'm always kind of giving it a second look and seeing like, what do other people think? Is this going to be worth my precious time? So if you think it is, give us a shout out there, give us a review. We would so appreciate it. And Jonna, tell them where they can find you on the socials.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter. Formerly Twitter, on X at 90s Yanks Kid. And yeah, I'm on all the platforms. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. So yeah.
Yeah, we go live on Facebook and on Twitter. So if it's easier to watch from there and you like watching along, you can find us there as well. I am on Twitter forever at Kbird Tweets right here. And you find us there. You find the link tree. You find all the links for everything. You follow along and you keep up with when we're going to go live next. For Jana, I am Kelsey, and we will catch you next time on Babes. Thanks for hanging out, guys.